Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Hey,
Hi,
good
sir.
morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, I hope our reception at your end is clear enough for this morning. I hope we will not experience any um, problem with our internet connection. Okay. So, by the way, as of this moment, I am still adding some names to the Google Classroom as well as reviewing the list that is in the people part of our USC instructor or the Canvas because the enrollment still continues until tomorrow, January 31. So tomorrow, once the enrollment has ended, I will have to review again the class list for our group number 48 so that I we can have the true number of students and the true persons, no? I mean the real class list for this semester. So karon class mag-usab-usab pa ni apa siguro yung mapuno na makuha as I have observed. So the class list that I got last time na ay napuno and then I added the name nga napuno only to find out this morning na wala na pud sila sa akong class list. So between today and tomorrow, there are still changes in the class list, the composition of the classes. So um, ours is group number 48, and this is supposed to be a BSA, an originally BSA block, but recently there are classmates of yours coming from different departments that is added to the class list. So for now, so we will not have the groupings yet. Let us let the enrollment subside or end so that finalize ni nato tanan the earlier the better because as I have told the classes, it is always good that you will you can cultivate relationships, good relationships, and good chemistry with your group mates later. Okay? So, this morning, we will talk about the historical underpinnings of the phenomenon of globalization. I told you last meeting, I told the classes that we will not be looking into all those events in the past that were believed to have been contributing something or to have contributed something to the development and the evolution and the realization of the phenomenon of globalization as we experience it today. Okay? So we opened our morning, our class with a song. Okay, that was a famous song. In fact, I think taas nakakuha na siya mga record. Best-selling single. Okay, it has an estimated sales according to Wikipedia of 14 million copies. Okay, so karon maggamit-gamit lang tag Wikipedia class, but in formal assignments, informal class requirements, I do not really trust Wikipedia. Pero kuan lang kanang ginagmay lang nga information, kanang immediate information, pwede ba na nato siya gamiton, no? So if you are a music lover, if you belong to what the educators called as kanang mga learners nga sa tawag ani auditory learners, no? Katong ganahan mo og music, ganahan mo maminaw, no? Ganahan mo og kanang something mas maka-learn mo through hearing. So songs are good ways of presenting the lesson. So if you of course you can review the video which is of course published in YouTube or YouTube kung saan na pag-pronounce, no, and go over that tanawa ra gud ninyo carefully unsa man tong nga mga kanang footages of world events that happened during the time. So as I have said, the song was recorded in 1990, no. So bag-o pa gyud to nahitabo ang mga political upheavals during the time from 1986, starting with, of course, the Philippine People Power Revolution, kadtong pag kuha nila, pagtangtang nila sa kadtong Sisko nga dictators dito sa ganito sa Haiti. Then of course, the fall of the wall that divided Germany during the time into East Germany and West Germany, famously called the fall of the Berlin Wall, which, if you are observant enough, was also portrayed in one of the footages in the song, in the video, in the music video that we have just played. It was, of course, sung by Scorpions. Anya ang title ato, The Wind of Change. Okay? So makita po ninyo dito ang mga panghitabo sa USSR atong panahon na. No? So what can we learn in the past as far as globalization is concerned? So as I have said, dili nato kuhaon tanan, dili nato i-discuss tanan kay mahurot man ta kay that is history, no? Globalization has a very long history, as many scholars would point out to us that globalization has a long history as humanity itself. Okay? In other words, globalization is also the history of humanity. It is about interaction, it is about interconnection, it is about relationships, and whether that relationship could be cordial, friendly, intimate, or it could be something that is, of course, problematic, or it could be something that is about enemies, no? Kay kanang pagka kaaway, kuan man po na siya, tawag ani kanang relation pud baya na, no? So whether you like it or not, kanang inyong mga ex naghapon may relation ana, even if at this point of time you are with Y and later on you might be with Z or ABC, whatever, no? So you have those called past relationships, whether it is cordial or problematic or something that is kanang kuan, um, wala lang, no? Basta lang kay niagi ra jud to siya o dili kamo. Those are relations. Okay? So let me share to you our slides for today. Actually, there are only two main slides for this morning. For actually, pero ang first kay kuan raman, introduction nga slide, ang last kay thank you slide. Okay? So, kadyo ta ko lang i-adjust kadyo for a while. Okay, then of course, after that, after going through a historical background, a short historical background of globalization, we will reprise the aspects of globalization. Okay. So two things for this morning. Okay. Ato lang yung tan-awon ng class. Okay? You are all familiar with this. The ancient migration of peoples, the commercial transactions among nations, or the Silk Roads, the religious missions, the invention of the printing press or the printing machine, okay? The discoveries of the Americas and voyages to the Far East, Industrial Revolution, the World Wars, and 1987 and 1989, and all of those. Okay? So with regards to the ancient migration of people, let us just review or go through our lessons ato ang history. Okay? Naman tayo world history sa junior high. So ato tong kuanan, atong hinumduman, unsa may mga panghitabo atong panahon na. Okay? So historians will readily concede that the ancient peoples were migratory peoples. Okay? They were transferring from one place to another in order to hunt food, to look for food, and whatever things that are of value and of necessity at that time. So gikan sa usa ka lugar moadto sila glain, and especially in those places which are bigger continents, if not continents. So kumusta man ang ilahang dynamics sa atong panahon na. Okay? Of course, there is ato sa Pilipinas, we cannot we have a different way of looking of these dynamics, no, lahi atong dynamics, because we are a fragmented island, ay a fragmented nation, or our country is geographically fragmented into an, as it is an archipelago. Pero what about katong naa sa Asia o sa Europe, no? Kay sumpay ra man gyud na. Kung inyo tan-awon class, so if we are in a face-to-face setting, I can always share to you a map. Kung maglisod kog share ani dinhi sa kuan ani nga kanang tawag ani nga platform. Pero if we look at our map, okay, galing kuan kani siyang mapa sa kalibutan, mahog masumpay ra jud, di ba? Sumpay ra jud ni siya ang tibuok kining mga continents like Asia. You have here, of course, the biggest is Russia, no? In terms of land area. Mutadlas siya diri sa tuwa dapit sa ibabaw, and then padung sa Europe. Okay? Then ubos sa Europe, you already have Africa. Okay? Then sa atbang ana ang mga kining gitawag natong Americas, from South Africa to Central or Middle America, South America, Central America, then North America. Okay? So muna atong kwan. Of course, you have Australia that is separated from the rest of these connected continents. So perhaps we can always surmise, sulod wag yun na sa itong hunahunag, yun sa kanila, no? Pag sojourn, kining mga lugar. So usually, if you are sa Europe pananglitan, no? Pila man na sila ka countries diha, and they are, except for the UK, okay, which is separate na siya kuan, na separated siya gikan sa France o sa Belgium o sa Netherlands, etc., no? As well, but if you look at Norway, if you look at Sweden, uh, connected ra gyud ni sila hangtod diri sa Finland and Russia na dayon, etc., no? So there were peoples in these continents. So in order to look for food, they have to go to places. From one place to another, they were nomadic tribes. They were, of course, as I have said, transferring from one place to another. And, of course, in the process of looking for food, in the process of their migration, in the process of their peregrinations, they, of course, meet some other groups that were different from them in many respects. So sa ilang pagkasugat sa mga lahi-lahi ng mga klase sa tao, it's either kadtong nga mga grupo are friendly to them and they are also friendly in return. But somehow di yun nakalikayan that there were those tribes that they met who were hostile. Hostile to them. So what ensues is, of course, a friction that would always and usually result into war and bloodshed. Okay? So ang mapildi nga clan siguro unsa man, it's either ila patayon tanan o ilahang i-enslave, which of course eventually class kay ni kuyog naman silang duha, doon na nasad sila mga interactions, and of course new families and new breeds would come later. Okay. So kadtong ilang mga lakaw-lakaw, balhin-balhin, so those relationships established interconnections among them. Of course, these interconnections may be crude compared to our present system of interaction, no? Kay sa una kinahanglan magyud ka mo move physically in order to see, in order to meet people who are different from you. So karon class, with the internet in our midst, you need not go to other places physically in order to meet people, no? We have our social media outlets that would become a platform for those endeavors, for those meetings, okay? So kana. Then of course, we do not know really how many years or hundreds of years it lasted nga in ato ang ilang pamaagi. Okay? So the rest is history as far as that is concerned. So by the way, kaning lista din is not necessarily listed in kanang kuan in the order of events, no? So dili in ana. Random ra ni sang nga list nato in order to remind us that these events are contributing something to the development of globalization as we know it today. Okay. Then you have the so-called Silk Roads, the commercial relations between East and West during the time. So again, let us look into maps. Kung makakita ba mong mapa diha, you can Google a world map, of course, at least to refresh our minds also, uh, and to give us some visual aid. Okay? Because I know that among you, there are also visual learners. Okay? Ang visual learners, ganahan kay sila mutanaw og mga pictures, and they can learn better if they scribble, if they do illustrations, they do concept mappings, and relation mappings, etc. No? So kaganina, si audible learner po to. So karon nga rita ni uh, visual learner. So if you are at home kusog na amang mo internet diha, so try opening a tab, okay? And look for a world map. Okay, kanang klaro-klaro sad nga world map ayaw tong kuan, ayaw tong na may I think the political map will be good enough. Okay? So from China to Europe, no? Ang Silk Roads diha man na dapita. Okay, mitadlas na siya sa Middle East. Okay? Yeah, there were of course the meeting of merchants. Pero di lang to siya bahig merchants class, no? It was not just about commerce because people when they travel from east to west and back again, they were not just bringing their products to sell. They were also bringing with them their culture. They were also bringing with them their religious beliefs. They were also bringing with them their artistic side, no? They bring with them their arts, their philosophy, and many more. And in the process of these commercial interactions, well, it was not purely commercial interactions along the way, no? Pwede man nga again, nagkagubat na pud sila, no? Nakakita sila away along the way. Pwede man that along the way they intermarried with another group, okay? Nalahi nila and so forth and so on. So with the exchange of goods, especially those who were unique at the time for a particular place, for example, China. So what was unique in China at the time? They were producing the better kind or the if not the best kind of silk that was of course viewed by the Westerners, by Europe, as something that is precious. Okay? So kana siya. They were bringing with them their practically everything of who they are or who they were at the time. So that it was an exchange of many things. Okay? And it also contributed much to the development of relations between the regions, whether East, West, okay? Europe, Asia, Central Asia, Africa, and many more. Nga kining makita nato dinhi, no, sa mapa. Kining nagkasilingan dinhi like China, India, no, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and muna ni atong mapa sa pagkakaroon. It may not be the same. It may be different at the time because those were hundreds or thousands years ago. No. Then of course you have the religion, the religious missions, the religious missionaries. We will be talking more about them later under globalization of religion. But both religious missionaries and the religious wars of the world, okay, contributed also to the development of the phenomenon of globalization. So there was, of course, an exchange again of literature because the Bible, the Quran, and the rest of the written religious books, whether it is the Bible, it is the Quran, it is the Veda, we are talking about the Vedas, or all other written religious works are part of literature that was worth studying all that for the rest of humanity, no, worth studying dili lang ni pipila kundi sa kinatibuk-an sa mga katawhan sa tanang panahon. It was a great, these are part of the great literatures of all times. And for Christians, the Bible, as we know it today, is a work of literature also. And of course, beyond that, it is the Word of God. Okay? So maski kanang development sa paghipo sa Bible, it was also something that was globalizing. Okay? Because if you look at the Bible class from as we know it today, no, from Genesis to Revelation, it is a span of 1,000 years. It is actually a history of different peoples whose culture was different at the time and up to this time. Lahi man ang ilang kultura kaniadto gatong kultura karon lahi, no? So it also is globalizing in the sense that more people are reading the Bible than anything else. Okay? Anyway, so ang mga religious missionaries of Islam and Christianity, kay kini man silang duha ka mga reliyon ang maingon nato kusog kaayo ang ilang missionary activities. Pero mas kusog yun sa uh, Kristyanismo. Okay? So that was of course something of an exchange of many things. It was something of of establishing interconnections among many peoples of the world. Okay. Then, of course, you have the invention of the printing machine by Johannes Gutenberg in the year 1440. Okay? So, pag-imbento ni Gutenberg sa printing machine na open, okay, the floodgates of learning and scholarship was opened as it was never before. Now, take note, class, that prior to 1440, the multiplication of reading materials was done by hand. Kinamot ang ilang pagkopya sa mga libro. Okay? So imagine yourself, ikaw you are taking accounting or accountancy. Imagine kung wala pala'y kuan class, wala pa na-invented ang printing machine hangtod ron. So you will be copying everything by hand. Di ba? So kanang imuha, for example, you will be, okay, you are taking a partnership. Okay? The law on partnership is provided for in Book 4 of the Civil Code. Okay? Mga 100 articles lang na siya. 1767 to 1867. Just that 100, those 100 articles. Imagine if there was no printing machine and you will be writing them, you will be copying them by hand. So inana kakuli, and what will happen? There would be, of course, kanang kuan, there could be errors in the process because we are human beings, kapuyon ta, do kaunta, kay kapuyon ato ang kamot, so usay dili mao ang ato ang mabasahan o madunggan. Okay? You know, I can speak of how the Bible was multiplied prior to the printing machine. Okay? Sa unang klase, wala pa ang kuan, wala pa ang printing machine. Usa sa mga libro nga most copied book of all time was the Bible. Okay? So imagine ang mga monk sa una, nato sila room where they copy the Bible by hand. So how did they did it? Okay? So naay magbasa, idikta pa to sa ilan, sila pud suwat kada linya, no? So mao na nga kuan nga, by the way, for example, the New Testament lang daan, which was originally, except the Gospel of Saint Matthew, the rest were written in Greek, okay? In the Greek language. So imagine, nagsuwan inyong gikopya ang ebanghelyo pananglitan ni Saint John. So pagsuwat pa lang ninyo sa chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, etc. No? In fact, if you read your Bibles, look at John chapter 1 verse 18. Okay? Some Bibles will say only begotten son, and some Bibles would say the, God the Son. Okay? So kanang duha. So unsa man jud ang kuan, ang sakto ana, no? Sakto nang duha, wa man na magbangi, no? But it was because of a Greek word, the theos and the huios, no? Nga siguro si scribe na natagpilaw siya nya lahi ang iyang nasuwat, instead nga theos, which is God, ang iyang nabatian ng huios, which is son, no, in Greek. So kanang inana. So imagine how hard it was to produce and how tedious it was to produce a single book at that time prior to the invention of the printing machine in 1440. Mauna class that during that time, not so many people were interested in going to school and learning how to read and to write. So those people at that time who cannot read Greek or Latin cannot read at all because they were not interested in learning. Kay first ngano mainteresado man ko, books are scarce. So how could I do my learning, no? Nya kay scarce ang libro class, it followed that the price was also high. Mahal kayo ang libro. Kay imagine ha, gikopya gaya na by hand. And kung ang atong hisgutan ang Bible lang daan in the Catholic canon, it has 72 books. Okay? 72 ba? Yeah, 72. So pila gud na kalibro ang naa diha sa Biblia niya. Iyon ang kopyahon, linya for linya, word for word, etc. by hand. And that would mean how many pages and how many hours of labor. Okay? So for example, you will be copying the book of Plato, ang libro ni Plato nga katang The Republic. So pila na ka pages? I think that is more or less 300 pages. And it was written in Greek. Okay? Or yeah, kanang inana, no? So moabot ang nakasayop-sayop sila, so people were not really that interested in learning many things. And there were a few schools at the time. Usually, ang school atong panahon na was just for those who were studying for the priesthood. Okay? Now, or kadtong naa sa seminaryo. Now, after the printing machine was invented, so nidaghan ang libro and people started to get interested in learning. So ni-flourish pod ang mga eskwelahan, ni-flourish pod ang mga universities from that time on. So kaning atong mga printers nga naatong ginagamit ron, we have always to go back to 1440 and thank Gutenberg for inventing the first printing machine, because from that first printing machine came in the innovations, the evolution of the printing press unto the present. So sa una class, when I was still in the elementary, kung magpa-print gani ka mo, ato yung printing press. Okay? Pero karon magpa-print ta usa namagud sa tuwa kasagara kay makapalit naman ta ron og printer. Nagpila ng printer ron. Most of the printer na printer nga dili man mahal ang uban, no? So kita mismo karon pwede na gyud ta magsuwat og atong kaugalingon libro and we can print it using our own printer. Okay, so diha, biyaan ta ng point. We go to the next. Discoveries of the America and the voyages of the Far East. So all of those travels by Magellan, all the travels of Marco Polo, all the travels of those nga mga explorers of the time had contributed to the cultivation of relationship with among peoples from different places of the world. So ang mga natives sa mga isla nga ato nang gitawag karon og Pilipinas, nakakita sila og lahi-lahi nga mga tao, no? Of course dili lang ang nakakita sila og mga Spanish with Fernando Magallanes and the rest of those who came to the Philippines at the time, no? Nakita na to sila mga insect class, nakita na to sila mga Malaysians kaya ato man ang mga silingan, no? And of course, um, history will tell us na ay mga kuan at ay mga primary sources of the time telling us that there were already commercial transactions, commercial relations between those who were living in what we now call as the Republic of the Philippines to with China, with Japan, and many other places in the world prior to the coming of Fernando Magallanes in 1521. Okay? So see, I will be using the original name. Okay? So instead of Ferdinand Magellan, Fernando Magallanes. Instead of Christopher Columbus, he was Cristobal Colon. Okay? Dinala nato na we will have to adhere to let us normalize class using the true and proper names of these people. Dili nato na in English zone kay mura magmawa ang sense sa history kung ato nang in English para nako personally, no? So Fernando Magallanes kog si Cristobal Colon silang Vasco da Gama kaysa patong uban diha who attempted to circumnavigate to go from one place to another has contributed something great to the interconnections among peoples. Of course, economically, politically, religiously, culturally, and of course, technologically. Okay? Then, from there, of course, there was the Industrial Revolution that happened in Europe, no? So when the factories came in, nausab pud ang dagan sa panginabuhi sa mga tao. So from a purely agricultural way of living, they shifted to the industrial way of living. So people were now working, people were now uh, employed in these factories. Okay? Of course, class, the world wars. Daghan man kay ito nga mga gubat. Though, kung maingon kag world war, we are concerned here with World War One and World War Two. For a while, class, na may bumbero. Okay. So, of course, we will be talking about wars later on, no? For example, the 30 Years' War, okay, which ended with the Treaty of Westphalia. Okay, we will be talking about that later. Okay, of course, World War One that happened in 1914, World War Two that happened in 1941 or 1940s, and of course the Cold War after that between the communist bloc as well as the democratic bloc in the recent times, and that was during our lifetime and the lifetime of your parents and your grandparents. Naundang ang Cold War pagkawagtang pod sa Soviet Union. So mubalik ta sa kanta nga katong gi-present kaganina, no? When the Soviet Union disintegrated, okay, nahunong pod ang katong gitawag natong Cold War. And when the Soviet Union disintegrated, so came also it opened more opportunities for the flourishing of what we now call as globalization with the liberal economic order. Okay? So, of course, 1987 and 1989, ang mga global nga mga events like, as I have said, the fall or the breaking of the Berlin Wall, the disintegration of the former Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Okay, nabuak na sila from then sa una. Okay, so when you say USSR, it included Russia, of course. Then you have Kazakhstan, ya kanina kaning mga Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, okay? Kini silang mga tantan din hidapita. Of course, you have Azerbaijan also. I think they were part of the USSR at that time. And also, and I think Belarus and Lithuania and Latvia and Estonia were also part of that um, great country, big country, or yes, which was of course USSR. So karon na after nawagtang si USSR, they were now fragmented into Russia, Yan, ibalik ang mga smaller countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, okay? And so forth and so on. Okay? So, mauna siya ang atong short history sa globalization. So, let me reprise these facets of globalization. Usually, kung ato ang balikan tong atong gidiscuss bago lang kanisiya, isa is well, you might say on its face it was something which was political. Yes, political, but not purely political. Because in all of those, there was also the economic aspect. Okay? The economic aspect may be subtle as well as the rest. Okay? But yeah, there was an economic aspect to that. There was an economic aspect as far as these things are concerned. No? Maski kaning religious missions class, the flourishing of a religious belief will also have an impact on the economy. Okay? So, pananglitan kung Christian religion. So, unsa may mokusog nga og halin ang mga Bibles. Okay, kung Katoliko na siya, dili lang kay ang Biblia mo mokusog og halin, hasta pod ang mga images, ang mga rosaryuhan ug uban pang galamiton diha sa pagsimba, no? So, the invention of printing, while we look at it from the technological aspect, it was actually something that was also economic and political, no? It was also religious. In fact, the first book that was printed by Gutenberg was none other than the Bible. Okay? So kani silang tanan class kining mga um, historical events in the past that led to the development of globalization has their own political, religious, technological, cultural, and economic aspects. Siguro, in any of these events, ang atong makita usually kana lang usa siguro ka facet of globalization kay mo'y maklaro, mo'y immediate na tong makitaan. But if we dig deeper, if we reflect farther and deeper, it is about these aspects of globalization. Okay? So, if you recall, there are subtopics na naaani nga mga facets of globalization. So the subtopics were already presented to the class during our first meeting. Okay? I need not share that as far as the sharing of PDFs are concerned, no? Kay ato man ang maagian as we go along the discussion in the next weeks until the month of May. Okay? So unless there are clarifications and questions, I think that would be all for this morning. Okay, so again, I will share this one after my last discussion sa akong last nga TCW class ugma. Okay? So I think that would be all for this morning. So you just keep yourself posted for announcements and for if you have sent an email inquiring something, I will read that tonight, and if it concerns for you personal lang dili siya mo concern sa klase, I will reply that immediately. Kung concern ka sa klase, I will reply it during our class. Okay? So I think that would be all for today. So we call it a day. See you Wednesday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you and
Goodbye.
goodbye, sir.
Thank you and goodbye,
Thank you,
sir.
Bago.